There he is.
Hey, what's up?
Hey, Alex.
Hey.
I'm at the movie.
Thanks
ready to rock.
Thanks for hopping on.
Of course.
Welcome to episode number 36. Yeah.
Do that. Can you still see me when I do?
No, I can't see you.
I'm back. Go ahead.
Okay. Welcome to episode number 36 of the Dugout Report. I am here with Michael Duarte, talking an interesting Dodgers victory over the Miami Marlins and much more. So welcome.
So much for having me, as usual.
So, so what were your overall thoughts on how the Dodgers did against Miami?
It was such a strange series, Alex. Of the three matchups that they were facing as far as opposing pitchers, I thought that Sandy Alcantara would be the one matchup. That's a former Cy Young Award finalist, a great pitcher. I know he's coming off Tommy John, but that's a guy that I thought if he was on could give the Dodgers problems. But they put up lots of runs against him in the first game of the series. That was the guy they beat, and then they seemingly struggled with the next two starting pitchers the Marlins had, who are guys that, I call them milk carton all-stars. They're guys you would not know from anywhere else. You wouldn't see them on the back of a Wheaties box or anything like that. Those were the guys that struggled. And I know it took the 10th inning in that second game for the Dodgers to lose. They couldn't get the ghost runner in the top of the 10th. Otherwise, maybe they complete a sweep. But overall, taking 2 of 3, winning 4 straight series, getting Shohei Ohtani going. He seemingly loves to play at Lone Depot Field there in Miami. Just crushes it. That's where he got 50-50 and had that monster game at the end of last season when they clinched the playoffs. So to get him going again is good. To get Hae-Sung Kim his first taste of Major League action and see him play well, especially with Tommy Edman hurt, was good. Evan Phillips, unfortunately, went on the injured list. So, and again, they had a bullpen game in that second matchup, and basically Landon Knack starting game 3. He's not exactly the guy, if you're the Dodgers, you want to see on the mound. So I thought he pitched extraordinary in that third game of the series. So to take 2 of 3 overall, I think that's a success.
What do you think about Freddie Freeman and his great at-bat streak continuing to heat up? Do you think that he'll continue to do what he's doing?
It's so funny with Freddie Freeman, Alex. This is a guy that, is on the tail end of his career. We would say the twilight of his career. Maybe he's got a few years left before he's going to ride off into the sunset. And then the big question for your listeners and for any fans of Freddie Freeman out there is when he enters the Hall of Fame, because it's not a matter of if, but when. When Freddie Freeman enters the Hall of Fame, what hat is he going to wear? Is he going to wear a Dodgers hat, or is he going to wear a Braves hat? And I know you asked me about the hitting tear, but for a second, for your listeners, and a question I would pose to you, Alex, when you think of Freddie Freeman, and I told you a visual moment, right? What pops in your head?
Just a very talented hitter.
Right, but for most people, it's going to be the Statue of Liberty as he's at home plate, walk-off grand slam in Game 1 of the World Series, right? I mean, that's a moment that they're going to play over and over and over again forever. As far as one of the greatest World Series moments of all time. And he did it in a Dodger uniform. So you could make a case that if that's the moment that stands out to people, maybe that's the team he should go into the Hall with, especially if he wins a few more World Series with them. But in any case, I bring this up because we know how great of a hitter he is. We can't believe he's still doing it at this pace, at this age, at this part of his career. He's actually getting more production than the last 3 years he was with the Braves here, in his first 3 years with the Dodgers. This was a guy who had a oblique issue, a rib issue in the Japan series. It made him miss like the first week of the season. And then after that, he slipped in the bathtub, hurt his ankle, and he had to miss another 2 weeks. So to see him hitting like this, back on track, I believe he's up there for the NL batting title right now. He's just absolutely crushing the ball. And if you look at the home run he hit in Miami on Wednesday night, the third game of that series, that afternoon game, that was a ball down and away. And to see him just get the barrel on it to hit it out was remarkable. So Freddie Freeman seemingly is in the zone. It doesn't matter where you pitch the ball. It could be out of the zone. It could be low and outside. And he's still getting barrel to the ball. That's a good sign for him. Obviously, it's baseball, right? Do I think he's going to continue like this for 162 games? No, I don't. He's going to go through some slumps and struggles, but to see him having so much success right now, especially with some guys injured and out, especially with Max Muncy struggling, it's good. And that's why this Dodgers team still has the best record in baseball, despite all the struggles they have, all the injuries they have, all the starting pitchers, Blake Snell, Tyler Glasnow hurt, all the bullpen guys hurt. Michael Kopech's making a rehab assignment tonight in Oklahoma City. That's a guy they haven't had all season long, and he was basically their best reliever and their closer for most of the season last year in the playoffs. This team is so deep and they're so stacked with so many all-stars and so many talented people that you can have guys go through slumps, and guys like Freddie Freeman can pick it up, and Ohtani can carry your team for a month, and Tommy Edman can carry your team for the first month. That's how deep this Dodgers team is, and that's how great it is that Freddie's hitting what he is. And if he does struggle, it could be Mookie Betts' turn. It could be Max Muncy's turn. There's a lot of guys that can pick up the offensive prowess on this team.
Yeah, speaking of heating it up, I think Ohtani is turning around with his hitting. He seems to be actively hitting better than most of the time that he started out with a bad streak of at bats. But what do you think about his batting?
Definitely the long ball is starting to catch up. You know, I mean, there was a time, I think I actually sent it to you, Alex, in one of our conversations and one of our messages. I think when Tommy Edman hit his 7th home run, and he was tied with Kyle Schwarber and Aaron Judge for the Major League Baseball lead in home runs. And like I've told you before and other people, Tommy Edman's like 5'7", 5'8", and 150 pounds soaking wet. And that's not a knock on him. It's just to say, this is a very small, lean guy. He's not Aaron Judge height. He's not Kyle Schwarber height and weight. So for him to hit so many home runs at his size and weight is truly remarkable. He's like Jose Altuve-esque, a little bigger than Jose Altuve. So to see him do that was strange, because you have a team with Ohtani and Freddie Freeman and Mookie Betts and Max Muncy and all these home run hitters. But now Ohtani has caught up. I believe he went out and hit his 11th home run tonight. He's the first player in Major League Baseball this year to have at least 10 home runs, 10 stolen bases. You're right. He's heating up offensively. And he was striking out and pitching, swinging at pitches outside the zone earlier in the year. And it seems like he's fixed that. I'd like to see him get singles. I like to see he hit a triple. He's leading Major League Baseball in triples. So it's not just home run or bust with Shohei Ohtani as it was earlier in the season. It seems like there was a great example today in the Arizona game here. We're taping this on Thursday night, and the Dodgers lost 5-3, but he hit a home run with 2 outs in the bottom of the 9th. Just go watch that at bat. He fouled off pitches. He didn't chase outside the zone. He waited for him to come in over the heart of the plate, and then he took him deep. That's a good sign when you're Shohei Ohtani at the plate. It means you're kind of firing all cylinders. You're seeing the ball well. Maybe he had some stress and anxiety with the birth of his impending first child. Now that out of the way, he's got that dad strength, that dad power back, and it feels like ever since his child was born and he re-met the team, he's been on a tear ever since. So that might be just a load off his mind that's making him feel more comfortable at the plate and hit better. But to me, that was the turning point. But also, I would say, look at the first month and a half of the season, his first year with the Dodgers in 2024. He also struggled and took a while for him to kind of turn it on a bit. So now he's doing it while he's throwing bullpen sessions and getting ready to face live hitters, and is probably about a month and a half away from maybe taking the mound again. So to be doing that while kind of picking up on the pitching duties is pretty exciting as well.
What are your thoughts on the rest of this series against Arizona?
To me, this is a really, really big series, especially how tight that NL West top 4 teams are. I'm talking about the Dodgers at the top, the San Francisco Giants, who I think are probably everyone's pick for most unexpected start to the season so far. I don't think anybody saw them where they're at right now. The Padres have been on an absolute tear. They started the season fighting with the Dodgers to see who would lose first. And the Diamondbacks were not any slouches either. And even though it looked like the Diamondbacks might have taken a step back after beating the Dodgers and going all the way to the World Series in 2023 to eventually lose to the Texas Rangers, the Diamondbacks reloaded. They went out and got an ace, a Cy Young candidate, in Corbin Burns in the offseason. They re-signed and re-upped Kettle Marte, and it just seems like they don't skip a beat. They lost Christian Walker to the Yankees, but they're still right there coming back. So the Diamondbacks are also a really good team, and really, the Dodgers have not played anyone in the NL West outside the lowly Colorado Rockies, who you could argue are the worst team in baseball this year. And that's a lot to say when the Chicago White Sox exist. But to me, and you don't play the NL West 19 times anymore like you did, 5 years ago. I think you only play them 13 times now. And so these games against the Diamondbacks, these 4 games, they're big. The games they're going to have against the Giants later in the year, the games against the Padres, they're going to be really big, especially when all these teams are jumbled up. And one of those 4 is going to come out of the NL West, and probably 2 others as the wild card teams in the National League. And that's not to say anything against the AL East, which I could see a wild card team coming from there as well. But yeah, you need to win these games. And Arizona knew they had the Dodgers coming to their turf, to the desert on their schedule. So they stacked their pitching rotation so that they could throw their 4 best starters against them. And the Dodgers, they lined up their best in Yoshinobu Yamamoto. That guy's probably the front runner for the National League Cy Young Award, right behind Paul Skeens, has the lowest ERA in baseball so far at the start of the season. And they hit a grand slam and put up 5 runs against him in this first game of the series. So that's not a good sign when your best pitcher goes out there and he gets shelled and you lose that game, because the pitching matchups only get better for the Arizona Diamondbacks the longer the series goes into the weekend. And I think there's a possibility they could take 3 or 4 from the Dodgers. I really do.
So I'm moving ahead. What are your expectations of the weekend series against, I think, the A's? I think.
Next week, yeah. I think it starts Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I'm just I can't remember who the Dodgers have after Arizona.
Who they face after Arizona? It's the Athletics.
Oh yeah, Athletics. Yeah. Oh, that's right. It's a 4-game series at Arizona, and then the Athletics.
And 3 Athletics at home, and then who do they have the next weekend?
And then they have the Angels.
That's right, the Angels.
Yeah.
That's they take on the AL West, which is a little strange this early in the season, to be honest with you. But look, Oakland Athletics, if you look at their standings right there, and I know they're not in first or second in the AOS, but they're better than expected, especially playing in that, little baby ballpark they have up in Sacramento, their first year in Sacramento. I'm surprised they're performing so well. Maybe with this pressure and the looming cloud that was kind of hanging over them the last couple of years, knowing they were moving out of Oakland Coliseum, and now that's gone and it's in the rear view, and you just got to get through these years in Sacramento while their stadium in Las Vegas gets built. Maybe it's like a weight off their shoulders, and they're able to play a little more loose and free. So they've been playing pretty well, surprisingly, and they got a lot of good hitters out there. Walk-Off Willie is one of them. I don't know if you've heard all the memes and seen Walk-Off Willie, but they're a good team. I think coming into Dodger Stadium against the best team in baseball, record-wise, I think the Dodgers win that series. And then I think they just beat the tar out of the Angels, if I'm being honest with you. And so I think getting back home after this long road trip. And like I said, we'll see how these next 3 games in Arizona go. Hopefully they can at least get a split. Best case, they win the last 3, but I just don't think that's going to happen. But even if they do lose 3 or 4, to come home for some home cooking again and beat up on the AL West, I think would behoove them.
So let's talk a little about the Phillies, and they've been on a hot streak lately, coming off a big time comeback win last night against the Tampa Bay Rays. Brennan Marsh was crucial in the late stages of the game, as well as Bryson Stott hit a terrific 3-1 home run that made the lead down to 1. And what are your takeaways of this series heading into the weekend?
So I was watching them there against the Rays. I thought some of the comebacks they've made was good. I feel like offensively, they're finally firing all cylinders again. Because it seems like they've been going kind of streaky, right? I think this team offensively has been very streaky to start the season. It was like they peaked when they beat 2 of 3 from the Dodgers that early, because they seemingly went on a spiral after that and struggled for the next couple of weeks, and now they're seemingly kind of digging back out of it. Unfortunately for them, it coincided with the Mets just going on this hot streak that they've been on, because Juan Soto was kind of struggling to start the season, and then all of a sudden, right when the Phillies were slumping, he turned it on and the Mets were streaking, and so now they're going to have to play a little bit of catch up, but they're right there, and I'm not worried about them making the playoffs at all. One thing that is a little bit of concern is Aaron Nola hasn't been as sharp this year as I thought he would be, and that's okay, because as long as he gives them above average pitching, pitches above, what his WAR stat would be, above his replacement. Let some of the other guys pick up the slack, because they've been doing that very well this year. Because Aaron Nola, when the playoffs start, we know he's a big game pitcher. But I'm pleased with what I'm seeing. The Phillies offensively, they appear to be turning a corner. And it's similar to the Dodgers, Alex. What I think with the Phillies and the Dodgers is we haven't seen them where every single aspect of the game is clicking. And what I mean is the offense is clicking, the starting pitching is clicking, the bullpen is pitching, and the defense is clicking all at the same time. When all of those 4 things can happen simultaneously, you can get really hot and go on a really good run. And that hasn't happened yet. It's been like, okay, earlier the starting pitching was doing well, but the offense wasn't getting there. Then the offense picks up and the starting pitching struggles. The bullpen struggles sometimes for them. So they're not clicking on all cylinders yet, but they're still winning, and they're still right there keeping pace with the Mets. And so I like where they're at. And I think at some point, when all those things click at the same time, they're going to be able to run off 7, 8, 9 in a row.
Mm-hmm. They have St. Louis next week, and then I think they play Pittsburgh after that, and it's pretty a light schedule the next week and a half, I guess, and I just think they'll continue to spark in the next few games.
Yeah, and Pittsburgh just fired their manager. They're a team without a ship, without a rudder, without a commander, and I think that they should beat up on Pittsburgh right now. Obviously, when you face Paul Skeens, that guy can shut you out any night. Mm-hmm. I don't know how the pitching rotation lines up for that series yet, but that's a guy that can then shut down any lineup. But after that, they should take that series from Pittsburgh and just keep on rolling. And I know Washington's been playing okay this year. Miami seems to be sparked. Stowers had a pretty good season. They got beat by the Dodgers, but they didn't get swept. But I do think the longer the season goes on, the war of attrition takes place. Mm-hmm. Guys start to get injured. The depth isn't there. They don't have the same depth that the Phillies and the Dodgers and the Mets have and the good teams have. And so I think the longer the season goes on, the Phillies will be able to beat up on their own division a little bit more.
I see the Phillies have Atlanta towards the end of the month. And do you think that the Phillies can avoid a big problem with Atlanta beating them up, or do you think that it'll go the other way?
That's a tough one. We just saw Atlanta. The Dodgers just traveled to Atlanta, and I know the Dodgers have beaten Atlanta 6 of 7 times this year already. They've just absolutely crushed them, except for that final game of that series. But Atlanta finally has turned a corner, and it's really been with our old friend here in Los Angeles, Alex Verdugo, Doogie, at the top of that lineup. It was like they didn't know what to do. Jerks and Profar goes down. They're missing guys. Ronald Acuna is out recovering. And they really struggle without it. Obviously, Max Fried is absolutely shining on the greatest stage in New York City at Yankee Stadium, and they missed that. Spencer Strider's not back yet. So I really do think that the Braves are just going to get better and better. And it seems like the Braves and Phillies is the best battle we've seen, and maybe you can throw a case in for the Mets because the Mets beat them in the postseason last year. But it's been really Braves and Phillies for the last several years. And so do I think that trend will change? Not really, but I think all that's going to really matter is if those teams were to meet in the playoffs, right? And how the Phillies perform in the postseason against the Braves, against the Mets, because it seems like at some point they're going to run into their own opponent, just their own division opponent. I mean, it just seems like that's the way baseball's gone. It's the same in the NL West. At some point, the Dodgers will meet the Padres or the Giants or the Diamondbacks. That's just how it's been for several years. And so, as I've always said, it doesn't matter how the regular season plays out. It matters how you play in those close games in the postseason when the margin for error is razor thin, and you have to win those games, and you have to do what I said earlier, which is offense, defense, starting pitching, and your bullpen all clicking on all cylinders. So, the Braves could win 90% of the games against the Phillies in the regular season this year, and none of that matters in October if you can win 3 of 5 or 4 of 7. And so I wouldn't worry about it too much. The Phillies have a big jump start ahead of them because of the Braves starting the season 0-7 and digging themselves such a deep hole and waiting to get some of their guys healthy. But once they do, I think the Braves will take off and try to catch Philadelphia and catch the Mets. But really, all that matters is going to be the postseason.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much for coming on and talking baseball with me. I always enjoy talking baseball and everything with you, and hope to have you back on soon.
Yeah, I love catching with you too. It's a shame that the Eagles, didn't end up drafting Shedeur Sanders, because that could have been something we could have talked about on that day 3 of the draft. I know a lot of people thought the Eagles might take him if the Browns didn't. So that could have been something, but we'll keep talking baseball throughout the season. Now that's what's going on for both LA and Philadelphia, with our hockey teams out, our basketball teams out, and football not going on. So all eyes on baseball for you and I, and Tom Cruise over here. He's checking us out too. So thanks for having me on, and we'll talk again soon.
Okay, thanks. Enjoy your movie.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.